Tschüss.
Whoop, whoop.
Let's wait for this people to come back.
So hopefully some people coming back now.
Yes.
You want to play another intro?
I don't think so. Hopefully we can cut this for the YouTube channel. Hey!
Hey,
There we go.
here you go, Anno. Or no, Silent Raider Germany. I know that my former player Anno is gonna watch.
Are we back? Do
We
have a
made
couple
it.
People?
Yeah, we made it.
Okay. All right. Let's wait a couple minute or two more just to make sure that
Close the curtain.
it was. I closed it and the blue light's on. Ah, you mean outside?
Man sieht, as soon as Paul is not present, the master stream the Raiders.
It went. Hey, in my defense, it went pretty well.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It went pretty well last time. I just don't. I can't have guests. That's what it is.
the substitute.
I can't have guests. Sean, you're also now a punter, sweet Moses. I didn't do that, Elias. But I don't think that's an accurate statement that I'm a punter.
That's an underestimation by source because you love to Philly punt.
I do love the Philly punt, but I haven't been very good at it this year. Okay. Should we get started?
Should we get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
Let's get started.
So, sorry for the couple technical difficulties. Welcome to Pirates Cove. Yeah.
Of course, my debut.
Yeah.
Tough week now.
Yes. With me today is our offensive line coach, Dominik Bauer. Dominik, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to do a Paul Phillip because I'm not used to hosting people. How was your day today?
My day was actually pretty good. Was in the morning coming into the office. I'm very lucky to have my other job being in the same building as with the Raiders, and the duties from my other job, the Terran Federation.
Mhm.
And then had game plan meeting with Kyle, as usually. It's like, because I'm a lot within the meetings, and it's like a little free sum what we have always.
It's a word choice, but yeah.
I love making you uncomfortable with word choosing in meetings. And no, we had the meeting and then did my other work again and did topics, and full lunch went for a bike ride, because that's what I underestimated in coaching life, is like taking care of your own body is coming way too short.
Yes. For you guys who don't know, Dominik has been a member of the SWARCO Raiders Tirol for a very long time, 2012.
January 2012.
2012, played offensive line for us for a very long time, almost a decade, at a very, very high level, and then transitioned in 2020 to coaching side. Was going to be running back coach in the COVID year. Obviously, we didn't end up participating and into the offensive line. So, but we'll get to more about Dominik later. At first, we have to address Sunday. To keep it relatively short,
Show scores.
Yeah, they can't see it yet anyways. Every once in a while, it doesn't happen to us very often, but every once in a while you go to a game and you get beat. And you get beat thoroughly. And that's what happened to us on Sunday. We went into Vienna against a team that's very, very good, performing at a high level organizationally, played with a lot more energy, or played with a really, really high energy level, and wanted it more, and it showed. It showed, that can happen sometimes. And like I said, it's not something we're particularly used to. Um, you know, I was talking to Dominik about it um, earlier in the week. I think I can count, I think twice that I've had that feeling that we've gone in and just we're outclassed. And that's, I think, what happened on Sunday. And, luckily for us, we're actually in the same exact position that we were beforehand. You know, excuse me, nothing's lost by any means. But I think we got to have a lot of reflection and take a look at ourselves as a team and where we're at in this part of the season. And our goal is always to compete for championships.
Sure.
And right now Vienna is the standard.
It is, and they showed it.
And they're doing a great job. And we just got shown that we have a lot of work to do. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this game. There's no reason to get overly down. There's no reason to get, hang your head. We don't have time. We're playing a really good team that's also in the playoff hunt this weekend, and we just have to get back to work, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said it. We talked about it very intensively because we have sharing along home rides most of the times, and was just a clear game, and the Vikings, kudos to them. They played with 120%, had some fire. They wanted it. They came out ready. We were just flat. Didn't reach out our potential. Didn't execute, and at those chances we had, like always, a mistake happened, and every phase of the games, like players, coaching decisions, like in every phase, and that was the reflection brought up, and that's what you get out to a perfect executing team. And then, like you said, normally we're on the other side of that mirror.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I think that's our focus moving forward. Obviously, it wasn't a very good feeling after the game. Like, I don't think it's what anybody expected. I felt good going into the game, but it was a reality check. And yeah, like I said, we have a lot of work to do. Looking at the
stats.
Yeah, looking at the game book. Huh? Oh, no. They came out with their hats on fire. Scoring 29 points in the first half to our 7. That's tough. It's tough to go down by 3 scores at halftime and then try to dig yourself out of it. Although the defense gave us a chance, we just weren't able to do it. And I think, if you look at the yardages or anything like that, nothing truly stands out, right? Like, we had the same amount of turnovers, I believe, 2 and 2. They obviously had 110 more yards than us, but that's not, that's field position dependent. That's more, that's significant more, but nothing like overwhelming. Penalties, the numbers, time of possession, we were on the field a lot longer because, in the third quarter, we had the ball almost the entire third quarter because that's where some turnovers happened. Third down conversion, 6 of 15 is far less than what we've been averaging all season, and 1 and 4 fourth down. I mean, and I think the biggest tail, 2 for 6 in the red zone. If we get in the red zone 6 times and only come out with 13 points, it's really rare for us as well, and that's where the defense, particularly, that makes the difference in the game oftentimes. The reality is that the Vikings are currently the benchmark, but the reality is also that the Raiders are still a playoff team. 3 times Raiders will not lose to the Vikings. Thank you, Elias. Part of me hopes we get another chance to kind of redeem that game because that's not indicative, and that game was not indicative of who we are as a team.
I mean, we're talking numbers right now, and two big numbers that negatively stands out in that game, and with me as a guest today, and I have to openly speak about it, is sacks.
Yeah,
we have that's what we have to talk about. I mean, we almost conceded as many sacks in one game as we conceded to this point of the season.
Mhm.
We conceded 6 sacks, like averaging 1 sack a game, so
Mhm.
far best in the league.
Mhm.
And now you had a game, it's like first sack was RPO, but the other 4 were clearly on the O line's heads.
Mhm.
And that's where we have to look in the mirror, and they were like in crucial situation. Also, some pressures were in crucial situation in the first drive on that double move to Marco. If you don't get the pressure by a mental mistake, the whole game could have gone different. But
Yeah.
we don't want to talk about ifs. But
No, but I think it's a good point to bring up. In this league, um, I actually haven't looked at the personal stat. Yeah, 21 for 38. That's not enough. That's not good enough. In this league, I think the margin of error is so small. Like when you go back, even in a game that's felt so lopsided, right, in terms of energy and execution,
mm-hmm.
3-4 plays are different, and that's a different outcome. And that's why this league is so much fun and so competitive.
Super
I
competitive.
miss a couple throws. We don't have a couple sacks. You can go on what if, and they can do the same thing. And what if they didn't have 2 field goals blocked, and what if they didn't throw 2 interceptions? And it's a bunch of what ifs, but every game comes down to a handful of plays in actuality. And if something comes out differently in those 5, 6, 7, 8 plays, the game looks very different. I think the biggest thing is you have to give yourself a higher percentage chance for those plays to work out successfully for you, because so many things can go wrong on so many different plays when you have so many good football players on the field. And we just didn't do that, and that's something that we're gonna strive and keep working to make sure it never happens again.
Exactly, you said it, named it as like the big task right now is like you said at the beginning, don't fall in a vicious circle and a spiral down
Can't.
with
We don't
hanging
have
down. It's like
time.
don't
Yeah.
have time. Every game is important. Every game counts, and it's just the next game, and you can't hang around with
That's
those negative thoughts.
that's exactly right, because if you go into next week, there's some really big football games. Um,
Hey, shortly, how about the Rams?
yeah,
Whoo!
yeah. Well, that's kind of what I meant. So we're going into to get a current look at the standings before we move on to this week's game. Actually, nothing changed. Now, Frankfurt won, so they're also 4-3, and Berlin won here, who's also 4-3, and us and Rheinfire lost. So now you have a group of 4-3 teams as kind of the tier 2 teams. Even though Barcelona lost to Istanbul, they're still in really good shape. They're playing Rheinfire this week, so they have the tiebreaker because I believe they beat them the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And if they beat them again, then they're kind of in clear hold of that Southern Conference. So, funny that Rheinfire and Cologne are in a Southern Conference. I just now realized that. Um, so that's a big game, but if Rheinfire wins, then we'll see what the point differential leads to. But Vienna and Hamburg are just kind of separating themselves. So it seems like there's a tier 1 with Hamburg being 2 games up in their conference, Vienna being 3 games up in their conference. That's kind of the tier 1 at the moment. And then surprisingly, we'll see how Barcelona responds to, like you said, in Istanbul. And then depending on where you put Barcelona, there's a 4 to 5 team tier 2. And there's 6 teams really jockeying for 4, 7 teams really jockeying for 4 playoff spots.
And we're gonna play 2 of them directly
Exactly.
in the last 2 weeks. So
exactly. So, no, it's going to be a very, very, very interesting end of the season. And like I said, 7 teams competing for 4 playoff spots. And really, if you take out Vienna and Hamburg, assuming that they don't absolutely implode, you have 5 teams competing for 2 spots.
But that's what the league makes. What does the league make?
Yeah, exactly. For us, in a way, the playoffs have already started.
We're in the middle of it.
Yeah, I mean, this
no
is
hold back. There's no.
The Frankfurt game was already a playoff game, although now they're right there with us again. Frankfurt and Vienna have to play each other again, so we'll see how that goes. But at this point, yeah, like every game can be treated like a quarterfinal until the semifinal.
Mm-hmm.
and that's, I think, what our approach has to be. Moving to Leipzig. Leipzig is last in their conference, but I don't think that's really indicative of the team. They've had a lot of injuries. They have a new quarterback now. Connor Miller, who we're familiar with, played him last season in Graz. Already won a championship this year in France for the Lachenov Flash. He's a professional quarterback. He can really hurt you if you don't take care of him. Obviously has a ton of weapons, but defensively they're starting to get healthy too. You know, we'll see if a couple of the pieces that weren't here last time we played them are back. It's not a game that we can cakewalk.
No,
I mean there is no game that
you can't compare it to the first game. Definitely, then it would be naive and blue-eyed to go in there. It's like, hey, let's just roll with the same thing in there with the same attitude. You simply can't. We're expecting a high physical game against Leipzig, like you said, the nose tackle, big nose tackles, Baglins, Leoder. They have great playmakers. I mean, we know AJ, great guy. And then Tavares, the other linebacker, just ballers.
Yeah,
just ballers.
They probably have any team in the ELF have the biggest disparity between players on the field. They have some of the best players in the ELF, but also have some holes that maybe some other teams don't have. But those players are so good. I mean, what is AJ's tackles above everybody? I think he's like 30 above everybody else.
I mean, he is like...
I think I saw he has 96 and the next guy is like 63 or something.
He just has a motor that never stops.
So when you have such talent on the field at any given time,
92 tackles.
92 and the next one's 69. I mean, and I think when you have that, you always have to be worried because a special performance by a couple of them can completely change a game because they're that good. They're really that good. So we really have to be disciplined this week and really execute at a high level, which is what we've been known for in the past and why we got in a 4-game winning streak and just wasn't able to put it together on Sunday. But we got to get back to it immediately if we're gonna continue on this playoff path that we're on.
I think what's important too is like talk to Kyle about it today in gameplay meeting again. It's like, and let's never forget what we already accomplished this season, where we came from before this game. We were like one of the top. If you take all the Rams game out before they imploded, we were like the top offense, and we always with the Rams games included, like in the top 4, and we scored on a highly percentage. We were 75 in the red zone before the Vienna game, and we don't have to lose this mentality.
No, absolutely not.
We did things right. We do things right, and we keep doing things right, and let's move on from that point in the right direction.
I agree. So yeah, another big one. We're going to Leipzig. Have a travel plan. We're taking sleeper buses for the first time.
Beat the street.
So hopefully we're well rested there, and then we look for another really difficult game, quarterfinal game, so to say, in Leipzig, and today's our first practice since the Vikings game. We got to get back to work.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions about the Vikings game or the Leipzig game moving forward, please write them in the chat. Do not hesitate. And we'll move on to Dominik or Coach Bauer. I have a couple questions in regards to the offensive line because I think the offensive line is one of the position groups that everybody knows is vital, but maybe doesn't know why it's vital. Or let's say it this way. When an offensive line isn't working well, everybody can see it, but they don't know why it's not working well. And when an offensive line is working well, I think it's less noticeable than when it's not working well.
I got sent or like a meme was around again with the temperatures going on. It's like offensive line are like air conditions. You only notice them how important they are if they don't work.
Exactly right.
And we saw that in the Vikings game, if something is not clicking, and all the season long we were clicking and things were good. Now things wasn't so good, and then it was like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
Shit. What's going on?
Exactly. But before we start talking about the offensive line too much, we already touched on it before you became a Raider in 2012. But can you kind of talk about your football journey in a
depressed way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, several things. I was always doing sports in my life,
Mhm.
and not highly competitive sports.
Mhm.
And was my heritage from Munich and all going on, coming out of soccer and skiing. Um, I tore my ACL with probably before I turned 18, 17, and then gained 20 kilos because 6 months no sports, and
Mhm.
like I was never a small guy and always big build, but and I flirted all the time with football, and I was like, yeah, just do it, just do it, and then I joined the Raiders, and from that day there was no looking back anymore. Then put all my stuff in there, and it became kind of addiction, and I dedicated a lot of my life
Mm.
to football, and a lot of priorities went on second for it,
Mhm.
and but I never regretted it.
Mhm. Uncle Charlie, yeah, Vegan had a very, very nice game, but to this point, our rushing defense has been very, very good. One of the best in the league. So I think it's just an uncharacteristic game from a lot of people and a lot of position groups in the team as a whole. And I don't know if we can build a ton of strong conclusions from the game outside of how did this happen and how can we diagnose to make sure it doesn't happen. Um, doesn't matter or it doesn't doesn't happen again. So and a lot of the success came through the air. To me, it looked like that we, the Raiders, started nervously against the Vikings as the game is huge magnitude. It'll be an advantage to start next time like the underdog because frankly the Vikings are the standard now. Are we in the hunt and can only surprise? How did you experience the atmosphere? Uh, no, that's a good point. Now we are the underdogs. When people are claiming, they're the kings of Austria, I think they're the kings of the league at the moment. And yeah, now this notion that the Raiders are supposed to dominate this league, obviously that's over, and we just have to play really well. That's it. Um, how did you experience the atmosphere in Vienna? It was very, very nice. I mean, the stadium is beautiful.
A lot of purple for
Too
my
much
taste.
purple
Too
for
much
my taste
purple.
as well,
Yes.
but really, really pretty. The fans are really, really close. Not as many people at the game as I thought there were going to
Mm-hmm.
be. What did you think?
No, it's
Same?
the same. The
Yeah.
same. To the fact, like in Tivoli, we're used to having all the fans on
Yeah,
one
it's
side
more
of the
spread out, right?
stadium, and they have two sides of the stadium,
Exactly.
so it's a little bit more spread out. But if they can get more attendance in there, it's gonna be like a diamond for the league.
Yeah, but it's for sure a beautiful place to play.
Oh,
Uh,
not talk about that.
it was very, very nice. It's far better than any other stadium that we've played in Vienna. That's most certainly. Hey, thank you for the follow. Um, so you had a great career. You were a big part of one of the best offensive lines in Europe for a long time. Well renowned as the Raiders' massive offensive line. Um, what why coaching? What made you interested in getting into
Um,
coaching?
I get to your question in a second. Why coaching? I started coaching pretty quick. So I said, I started football in 2012. I started coaching in 2013 already. Coach Grimes brought me into this whole youth football loop of coaching, and it helped me by myself to develop as a player because you have to deal with all the concepts and all the knowledge of it by providing this. You have to be good at this,
Mhm.
and so your overall understanding gets better. And just fell also love with coaching and this work for details. And one of the biggest challenge on offensive line is not to teach offensive line of football, is to teach the law of the grind, because that offensive line is like there will be no success that quick. It's like you have to grind for several years to get to a point where you say, hey, you can be really really good,
Mhm.
and to people bring to this to, or bring them to this journey. Um, it that was something that I truly enjoy.
Great. You want to address the question?
Yeah, question from Elias. Did you know that Blake Nelson will play, and were you able to prepare for him? Did the Vikings show anything new in the pass rush, or were they just too strong? What did the O-line say about Nelson? is he really the monster he looked like from the outside? We knew that Nelson is gonna play. We prepared for several looks that they're gonna show to us, like in the first game, the front of Viking look. So we knew what schematically, which kind of pass rushes that we're bringing. With the O-line itself, of course, in the video studying, we addressed certain kind of moves. Yeah, and then no question that Blake Nelson is a truly physical and very good ball player. And yeah, on the other hand, like both tackles were not 100% healthy.
Yeah.
If everybody known Michael Habitin, that Michael Habitin is around and is normally healthy, there are mistakes that a normal day do not happen. Period.
Yeah.
And from a pure technical point that he can execute as a healthy guy, and I had to rotate my right tackle at halftime because of injury, and so like not going day in our perspective, just hit the sum, and like I said, he played, um, he played like all of them played on fire.
Yeah.
And pressure from both sides, and so we're gonna know it's gonna be a tough game, like it's always against the Vikings.
Yeah.
Like,
And Elias, a couple things, and for everybody, kind of a look behind the curtains. Anybody who's been following the Vikings this year, if you have noticed, they play us very differently than they play everybody else. That's part of the reason they know us so well. We know them so well. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dami, we're the only team that they've played 30 front as their base defense.
yes, I mean that's the huge thing.
And so they played us a 3-3 stack in the first game, majority of the time, and then this game they come out in a more of a 3-2. 505 Okie look, you know, a 3-2 box, your traditional 3-2 box, and they've only shown that to us. And you know, the defensive line is a bit banged up, but I think it's more that, you know, they want to get 8 people in the drop and take away our quick passing game. And anytime you play against the Vikings, if your tackles struggle, you're gonna have a tough game.
It's gonna be a long game.
Yeah, and when we've had a lot of success against the Vikings, we've had great tackle play. When we struggled against the Vikings, we've had poor underperforming tackle play, performing to our expectations, right? And that was kind of indicative of Sunday a little bit. You know, we struggled running the ball as consistently as we have been running the ball, and we had beat up tackles, and and they're dropping 8 men into coverage, and so it was a recipe for us to have a tougher day than we're normally used to. Although we still had plenty of opportunities, so.
No, I think we made more big plays in that game that we till made to this point of the season.
Yeah, exactly. I was really surprised I threw for 298. It didn't feel like it because the rest of the games, I mean, I'd been under 250 for our winning streak.
Yeah.
But that was also because we were playing from behind a little bit. But that was kind of a look behind the curtains. If you guys noticed, I wouldn't be surprised if next week they went back to a 40 and Blake was still playing in, but. You know, for us, it's just a little bit of a different game when you're so familiar with each other.
And what you have to mention in that defense is not really like, especially in the run game, the defensive line, but Schneider.
Yeah.
From sideline to sideline, it's like he's forcing guys to break their lanes and to adapt to it, and he had also very, very good.
But that's the expectation of Thomas. But the thing that he's gotten a lot better about is in the passing game.
Yeah.
So I think the Vikings have really helped him develop in that regard because he's getting hands on balls that he normally wouldn't.
Exactly. In the past where we openly said pick them. Like
yeah. I mean, so no, it's a really, really good defense, and I really hope we get another opportunity to get at him because I think there's more there than what we took advantage of.
Yes.
So now you're two years into coaching. You know, well, at least before the Vikings game, had the top offensive line by grade. I don't know what it is now. I know still. So couple questions. I'll start with this one. What have you noticed from the offensive line, defensive line perspective? What are some observations that you made in the ELF that have surprised you or has been something expected in comparison to where you've been as a player and a coach in the AFL realm for the last 7 years?
DLF in that circumstances, in that environment is very similar to the old GFL, where a lot of huge bodies are around and teams are able to gather huge bodies. And so, like in the past, where teams tried to pick on mismatches within the offensive line, that's a little bit nullified in that regards. But now you can truly see that the differences between good offenses is oftentimes when they have good educated offensive linemen technically. And that's a huge difference in Europe, in my opinion. It's like there's so much knowledge out there. I mean, you can look for 1,000 clinics and all on the web, but there are not a lot of coaches that can apply these to their players and fit those in those schemes. And if you face a good D line, because the level of D line is very, very good in this league, and it's probably higher than, let's say it like this, the amount of good defensive linemen is higher than the amount of good offensive linemen. And if you can find the matches there, it's going to be a tough day. And of course, we try here with the Raiders hard to have this not happen.
And in your opinion, why throughout Europe? Because I completely agree with you. I think if you take Europe as a whole, Europe produces better defensive linemen than they do offensive linemen in general, right? Why do you think that is in your opinion?
Because I think, first of all, defensive line is a position that is it's not easier or worse, but it's easier to learn. And that's what said. A lot of people said it's easier to
More
learn.
natural movement.
Natural movement. You're going forward. You can use your power naturally. You can develop better. And I think there is better D line. There was better D line, more D line coaching around Europe than it was for offensive line. It's like it's still. There are still not a lot of good online coaches in Europe, where you can say, hey, that's really those guys are developing, and that's from the beginning. I was lucky to have for a long time a very good online coach here with Lee Rowland, which professionally I truly highly respect and learn a lot from him, and put a lot of other influences throughout in with the experience of my playing career, and now try to apply these. But that's a little bit the difference where what's the difference between O-line and D-line is. It's like it's just the development takes so long in O-line.
Right.
It's like it takes really, if you have an average O-lineman with all the physical skills get, it still takes 2 to 3 years to make a very good player of it.
Sure.
And that doesn't happen overnight. Still with the ELF being so young, and now having better coaches around, still takes more time to get the development offensive line.
And what are some common characteristics that you notice when you have a complete unit, solid unit of offensive line? Because that's one thing I think people don't really realize as well, that it's the what is the expression? The sum of the total parts is greater than the individual, whatever you mean. So as a whole, you can have lesser offensive linemen that play together really well and produce a stronger unit than maybe some other people with more individual talent. So how do you produce a solid starting 5 offensive linemen instead of having a bunch of individuals?
It starts all in the meeting room. It all starts in the meeting room and making everybody, the whole unit, understand a whole concept. Because if everybody understands the whole concept, everybody else automatically knows what to do and what my guy should next to you means. With that coming in comes the communication. It's like, hey, we're checking down if somebody watches us playing offensive line. You see a lot of guys talking, a lot of this talking. Well, you taste sometimes too much talking, but that comes with experience, that those talks are getting quicker and faster. And like you said, like we back in 2018, 19, it's like da-da-da-da-da.
There was no discussions. There was just checks for confirmation.
There were like 4 words, and
it's like
everybody knew exactly what to mean. And
exactly, because everybody saw things the same way, right?
Exactly. And that's also like making everybody understand the defense. And that's not a lot of offensive linemen can do this in Europe. It's like going out. I mean, at the end of my playing career, I'll start looking at corners and safeties to anticipate what's coming. If it's man, it's zone, is like this. If you get players like 5 guys to that level of understanding football, then it's just a physical execution.
And is that the biggest characteristic that makes an offensive line good in Europe or good in general as opposed to not? When you look at characteristics of, hey, that offensive line is functioning at a high level, is it unity or is it something else?
Unity. It's
Okay.
it's all unity. I mean, you have your special standouts,
Mhm.
but it doesn't happen if you have, let's say, you play Berlin or Vikings.
Mhm.
You have the best right tackle in there or a very good center in there, and then they have 2 to 3 good D linemen, and they beat you up the whole game because they just come over the other side.
Right.
And so it's like to like how can you put you get O-line in the best spot to succeed at the first? It's like do not play certain concepts, like fitting the talent to the concept, and then it's making the unit fit to everything else.
Gotcha. And when you look at an individual player, because I think offensive line, from my experience working with the youth of the Raiders and working with the R2 of the Raiders for my career here, offensive line is not always something that is guys are like, yeah, you know what I mean? It's not the sexiest position at times. But when you look at a player who maybe be new to American football or is a talented player that has some experience but maybe is positionless but is a big body, what are some characteristics that you look for, try to identify in the guy to go, okay, this could be an offensive lineman, or hey, go play defensive line or something else?
Of course, like the living nature gives you with a certain athletic talent or not. I mean, we've seen here with the Raiders a lot of guys that are very blessed with talent, but we had also like that's what I about to come to, is like the biggest characteristic what I searching for is heart.
Yeah.
And it's hard, and it's like the will to do stuff that nobody else wants to do. I mean, I was never the biggest guy. I was never the tallest guy. I had to be perfect with my technique. I had to be the best guy in the weight room or in being in that level to succeed. And a lot of like 80% an offensive lineman can be with heart and dedication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I asked because if anybody's followed the Raiders offensive line, it's been good since my time here. But we have guys that are all different shapes and sizes. You know, we have your guys who look more like Coach Bauer or like Patrick Spielmans or Habertines or Josephs, or it's really, you know, I think we probably have the smallest offensive line in the league. Am I safe to say that?
I mean, not now
In
anymore.
total?
I think we averaging. I mean, Joe is ranking up or average
Yeah,
of 2
Joe
meters
and
7,
Funky and
but we averaging now 192 and 130 kilos. But in weight size, I don't even want any heavier guys in there because I want to have athletic offensive linemen that are capable of moving in space.
yeah,
So that's a fine line you have to meet. Of you want to have somebody that if you run at him, he can absorb power,
right.
but also it's like, hey, you better
Can
get
move.
you 4 or 5 shuttle.
I gotcha.
And
Yeah, because physically there hasn't been a strong characteristic, but you know, it's sometimes funny when you break the huddle, and even back in the day where it was like Spiely Horhager, you Shaw have, and it's just like all shapes and sizes, but they all performed well together. I think moving forward, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm curious what you say. Moving forward, how can, without giving maybe too much away, in general, how do you think the offensive line position, now that the ELF has shown when you play at a high level, it's vital to have a strong offensive line. How is the level in Europe in general going to raise for offensive line, in your opinion?
it's a two-edged sword because of course everybody need better O-line, but I do a lot of scouting and recruiting for offensive line. I take a very big pride in it here, picking my guys. But if you know what you have to look for, it's really, really hard to find those guys. Because either they're already gone and play somewhere under contract or with other teams, or they're really rare to find. And it's tough and people want it, but it's like I want to win in the lottery, but do I have the right ticket for it? So what they're gonna do is probably invest in coaching and try to get guys with the right eyes.
But it's a real investment, right? You have to be patient.
It's not thing that
It's
you
not an
can
overnight solution.
And overnight means on an O-line, it's not a solution you do in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
And I think that's the biggest
3
thing.
to 5 year stretch.
I think that's the biggest thing because I think a lot of clubs in Europe don't even have that continuity. I think that's been one of the biggest points, and I've said it before, is not only having me a quarterback for 7 seasons now, but also having a lineage, now 2 generations of coaches, but all brought up through the Raiders, and you have consistency and continuity that a lot of clubs don't have. So maybe if they did bring in a great offensive line coach, he only gets a season and a half with some guys, and then he moves on or whatever.
Or the head coach gets released, and then
you just never know, And I think that's also a little bit of a secret of why Austrian football's been so good, because Chris has been at the Vikings forever. The Raiders have had a ton of continuity. I think people really have to think about that, and hopefully people that run clubs can see the big picture and project down the road. And bring in better resources for the offensive line, because offensive line play and quarterback play are the secret for a successful league. Well, a successful league, in my opinion, because everybody wants to see good offense, right? Good offense sells tickets.
Of course.
And without a good offensive line, the quarterback can't do anything. And
it
doesn't matter what talented, Madre or London might be the exception, but even then, the Cologne offensive line knew how to run power, last year. So. And I'm sure Glenn Tunga, I hope I pronounced that right, is not doing everything himself either. I'm sure.
No, they have a really, really good run offensive line, but if you look at the stats on the other side, it's like on percentage of many sacks they've given up on passes.
Yeah.
So that balance to find is really hard.
I think the quarterback might be able to get rid of the ball a bit faster too. So the sacks is always an interesting statistic, because it's not 100% the offensive line. No. Sometimes, like, maybe the quarterback, I don't know how many quarterbacks call their own protections, but maybe the quarterback called it wrong or just held onto the ball. The receivers made bad reads. A lot of things going to sacks, but going into running game, it's a pretty good indication of, yards before contact is a really good indication of how well the offense.
Unluckily, we don't have that track, but
yards per carry is a good indication.
That's a good indicator as well.
Yeah. No, good. Good. Do you have any other thoughts or observations that you want to say
I see you have taken the questions.
42 minutes. It's a bit short, but I think the game was a bit short.
Any questions from you guys you still have in the chat, or we're gonna come out that you may be interested in regards to offensive line or the Raiders, or so just let us know in the chat.
Yeah. So moving forward in the immediate future, obviously our preparation for Leipzig has already begun. We have our first practice tonight. We have a game, and then we have another bye week, which it's, without divulging too much information, is going to be nice. It's going to be necessary. Yeah. I mean, this is a tough league, and depth. I think depth is going to show in the last 5 games of the season of who's healthy. I didn't even see that. Sorry. That's a great question. Sorry, I must have missed that. I am disappointed, obviously. I think if I wasn't disappointed, or any of the players or coaches or anybody in the organization is not disappointed, there's huge problems. Yeah. I currently do not have a mental coach, and that's something that the Raiders don't have available to them at the moment, although I think it is a great idea. I've had a mental coach in the past and had great success with him. Shout out Tom. But I think it's hard to shake off the stink of a game. First of all, with it being Sunday games as opposed to Saturday games in AFL, it's still fresh, right? And there's the 48-hour rules, but for me, until I can get this practice in and feel already committed to Leipzig and just move on, after a loss like this, I'm typically not the nicest person to be around, or the most pleasurable. It just it bothers me. It bothers me a lot. I don't like it, especially because I know we're so much better than what we put on the field.
I was about to say it's rather the loss that bothers so much than the missed opportunities and not performing to our standard.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest thing that bothers me in general. Like when we lose a game, we've been pretty fortunate, but when we lose a game and we played well and we played towards our potential, and we just got beat, which hasn't happened often because, we've typically been on the upper hand in terms of talent, coaching, whatever. I think 2015 Braunschweig.
16 or
16, I think we weren't the better team. I compare 16 to what happened on Sunday.
okay.
15, we played a hell of a game, and it was like 2 or 3 things, and we lost barely. And obviously that stung and hurt, but it's like, man, we played a really good game, and it didn't work out for us. We didn't play a really good game.
But the only comparable loss that I can think back of, like 2 games in a 10-year span, and that's 2013 Euro Bowl versus the Vikings. Was like my first true season in the first team for the Raiders. Not being a backup there, but still, I was so happy because I got promoted to the PAT field goal team.
Yeah.
And I saw the field just one time.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it was that bad. That was really, really bad. I don't think it was this bad.
And then 16 Braunschweig. It was like you just got beat.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. And yeah, for me personally, it's always difficult to shake it off until I get to the next practice. And even today, I want to practice. I want to get back to work. Game planning doesn't feel like work. Practicing feels like work. Did the Raiders play below their standard, or was the opponent just that strong? I mean, they were most likely know your offensive style very well. Both. I think they're a really, really good team. There's a reason they're undefeated, and that's a really good defense. And Chris is a really good defensive coordinator, or Chris in combination with
Big.
Yeah, thank you. Who is coordinating? Again, they know us well. They do something completely different against us than other teams. I think, they drop 8 because they know I have a ton of success against 7 and 6 man drops. They take away quick throws because they know that's what I like. They had a good scheme against the running back or our running game, but at the end of the day, we just didn't play well. They've done those things in the past. It's not like sometimes their game plans are good and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're better, but they're always good. They're professional coaches. They're really good professional coaches. We didn't execute well, and they did. So I think both. And yes, they know our offensive style, but when it doesn't, in my opinion, when an offense is firing at all cylinders, there's nothing a defense can do. The rules are set up for the offense.
On scheme, every play is a touchdown.
And yeah, you're in defenses are in a reaction mode, and offenses are in a execution preparation mode. And I think when the offense does everything right, the best defenses will still struggle.
Is there a big difference between the Viking starters from week 1 and the players fill the gaps skill-wise? The first game they played with 1 linebacker, and I think 5, like the rest were all DBs in the box because they were so short on linebacker. Now they have brought in people now, and so they were able to be a little more physical in that regards. Like I said, then it comes down, it's like on a normal day, it's a highly competitive game, and at the beginning of the game, the first drive, I was like, okay, well, first 2-3 plays, we run the ball good, and then just being flat out and being handled like a little kid at some occasions, and that's what it is, and there's no special explanation, it's just facts.
No, I don't think there was a big talent gap between the roster week 1 and the roster today. Obviously, week 1, Blake was on the roster but was hurt and didn't play. But they still had a talented D end and Dominik Spiegel, who had a good game. Siegel, who had a good game that week 1. They had an American DB. Maybe I think Edwards is a better player, but it wasn't that their defense was so much more talented than their defense on Sunday. It's more so the execution wasn't as good as on our side, especially in the running game, I think we didn't run the ball enough week 1, but we ran for good yards per clip, per attempt, better than we did on Sunday. So I think they've done a very, very good job managing injuries, that I will say, but from week 1 to this week, I don't think there was a big talent gap in the roster. They're both really good defenses.
So I have to go to work.
Yes, so do I. Guys, sorry for the technical difficulties at the beginning. Again, it's always a it's always a gamble when Paul's not here. But yeah, sorry this wasn't the most uplifting and happy
Enjoyable,
stream that
happy
we've ever
stream.
done. But that's just kind of the fact of the matter at the moment. And we're not going to do Spotify because I can't sign in to Paul's account. Not that I want to do it at the moment, anyways. I want to go practice, so that's what I'm gonna do.
I was about to choose Ramble On from that sentence.
Okay, I was gonna choose DNA. Thank you for the follow.
Thank you.
I was gonna choose DNA by Kendrick Lamar because that's kind of the mood I'm in at the moment. Dami, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Any last words for our spectators?
Hope you're all enjoying Pirates Cove, and with this show, you maybe all like casual fans start to look a little bit closer to what's happening on the field, and I hope everybody enjoys it, and you get a little bit insights of what's happening besides from that what we let people see, and hope you guys enjoy.
Yes. Hey, thank you guys for coming. As always, thanks you supporting us and following us. Elias, I love you. And it's time to go to work and get on to Leipzig. So thank you guys so much. Hope you guys have a great day, and ciao, cacao.
Ciao, ciao.